Hey everyone, I'm back! After a very long absence where I didn't make any videos and I just lived my life for a while. And now I'm in a new house, I got new pets, I got 2 kittens and 2 puppies in the last 2 weeks. So that's very weird. And today we're going to talk about a movie called Twixt. Felipe! Come back! Oh, he's right here. Hi! Can he stay on my head? Ooh! So Twixt is a recent movie from, I don't know, sometime in the 2000s. Oh, shit. He's okay. I'm okay. The movie stars Val Kilmer. Not the Val Kilmer from the good old days, but today's Val Kilmer. That Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer plays a writer named Hal Baltimore, who is like a second-rate Stephen King. The movie starts out, he goes to this little town to do a book signing.
Have you ever read a Hal Baltimore thriller?
No thanks.
Nobody's really ever heard of him, except for the sheriff of the town, Bobby LaGrange.
Oh, the Hal Baltimore. I'll take one.
Who says that he is a writer himself. So the sheriff tells him, hey, you know, there's been a murder in the town. Let me show you the body, and we could write a story together about these murders.
This a common occurrence in Swan Valley?
It's happened before. Serial killing appears to be. Leaves a calling card as a wooden stake.
And Hal's not really interested. He just wants to do the book signing and get the hell out of there. He's got money problems. He's Skyping with his wife, and she's like, oh, I really need you to get an advance in the book so I can pay the bills, or I'm going to destroy your treasured copy of House of Leaves.
Yeah, that. Do you know how much it's worth?
Yeah, I do.
$160,000.
No, it's worth a lot more than that. It's priceless. You shouldn't even be touching it. How did you get into my safe? Just calm down.
You said it was.
Please stop.
So at first Hal's not really interested in the story, but then he one night has a dream. Where he meets this weird sort of gothic girl who looks kind of like a ghost.
You're looking at my teeth.
No, I'm not. I just didn't know where you came from.
I'm very self-conscious about my buck teeth.
Let me stop to say that this movie has some horrible, low-budget visual effects. The effects are a big part of the charm of this movie, but they're really bad.
I went for a walk. I guess I got lost.
A lot of people compare them to live-action computer games of the mid-90s, like adventure games, where you would have like the FMV character over like a computerized backdrop. It's not quite like that. You can tell like everything's real. There's no like fake buildings or anything, but it's just the layering or the lighting or something looks terrible. Things look like really poorly done day for night, or green screen, or I don't know what the hell he did, but if it was an experiment, it's a failed experiment. It's bad. So he starts talking to this creepy girl named V.
V, that's nice. What's your real name?
Virginia.
Dude, you trying to eat my shirt? Give me my shirt. I need to go to work in 15 minutes. Give it to me. So V starts telling him about these murders that happened in the town.
It's the dead little kids.
There's also sort of a side story where there's an inn, a hotel, in the town that's not really open anymore. It's like run down and abandoned. But at some point in time, Edgar Allan Poe stayed at the hotel. So Hal, being a writer, is really interested by that, loves Edgar Allan Poe. So in the dream, which at first you don't know it's a dream because the way it's edited, you think like the movie just took a weird left turn into CGI-ville. But in the dream, he's talking to the girl, walking around, he stumbles upon the Chickering Hotel, which is where he heard Edgar Allan Poe stayed once.
Well, that old hotel is open. Come on, I'll buy you a soda, sweetie.
And he tries to go in with the girl, but the girl like disappears. The plot of this movie is very convoluted. There's like 3 things going on at once. He's learning about the murders, like the real murders that happened in the town, through this dream girl V. And then there's also Edgar Allan Poe, who shows up in his dreams as well to help him write the story about the murders because he's got like writer's block or something.
How can I help? Well, I don't have an ending.
Did you know that Dickens once corresponded with me concerning the technique of writing the ending first and working backwards?
And then at the same time, he's dealing with his own loss of his daughter who died in a boating accident, which I guess is taken from Francis Ford Coppola's real life. He lost a son some years ago in a boating accident, I believe. So there's those three things. There's like the ghost world. I guess that's why it's called Twixt, because he goes back and forth between the ghost dream world with the horrible graphics and the real world where nobody knows who he is except for this annoying sheriff who wants to write a book with him. I wish I could explain it better, but I can't because I don't feel like I really got it. I think the main thing about this movie was really the visual style that Coppola was going for. Unfortunately, it looks terrible. Well, let me stop. On first viewing, it looks terrible. Before I do a review, I always watch a movie at least a second time, because you pick up more things, and knowing where the story's headed helps you better understand the beginning. And on the second viewing, I sort of started to like the visual style. The weird thing about this movie is the story is very confusing. It looks terrible. Val Kilmer's actually a pretty decent actor in it, I thought.
I could have been there. I should have been there.
Some people say the acting's bad. I didn't really. The girl was kind of whatever, but the script wasn't that great to begin with. Given how mediocre the script was, I think everyone did a pretty good job. But I don't have a good eye for acting talent. I think everyone's a good actor. But the interesting thing about this movie is that despite all the things it has against it, it still doesn't have that bad of a review score. If you look on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's got 20-something, which is not as bad as you would think from watching this movie. Twixt comes across to me as sort of an experiment in filmmaking that didn't work. I read something about how Coppola intended to do live editing with this movie. Like, he planned to go to theaters and gauge the crowd's reaction as they watch it and make edits and make some scenes shorter and some longer depending on how the crowd was reacting. Like a sort of a DJ doing like a live mix. I don't think he ever actually did that. I think it was just an idea. I don't see how you could really do that. So the movie obviously had a few experimental ideas behind it. There's also a weird side story about these like vampire-like mischievous teenage kids that live across the lake.
They did bad things. Worshipped Satan. The way they dressed and the music they played, and their mysterious leader known only as Flamingo, a seducer of innocent youth.
And I feel like this is very cliched, like the gang of misfit children that live away from town in their own little like community. Like, that doesn't fucking happen. Not in 2014 when everyone's got iPhones and shit. Like, we got stuff to do. We don't have time to make bonfires. So then it's like the ghost girl V is one of the vampire kids from across the lake. Like, she joined them. There's also this like murderous priest. Okay, so originally she was part of like a church group run by this creepy pedophilic sort of priest. And the priest feared the kids across the lake, and he didn't want his church group to be seduced by them.
Never, ever go with the people across the lake!
So he got this crazy idea in his head that they were going to turn evil and go with them. So he decides to kill them. So the mass murder is the priest killed all these children. That's the story that's haunting this town. And V, the girl that Hall Baltimore meets in his dream, is the one girl that got away.
Gotcha!
And didn't get killed by the priest. But if she got away, then why is she a ghost? I don't know. I got no answers. It's also not clear when did this happen. Was this something that happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 10 years ago? No idea. Time is another thing in this movie. There's this weird, vague theme of like, time is impossible to measure in this town, Swan Valley. There's a clock tower in the town, and the tower has 7 clock faces, and they all have a different time, and no one knows like what time it is.
The faces persistently told different times. No question. Something evil was abiding there.
And people say things like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. The clock says. And V is like, oh, it's pointless to keep track of time in this town. It's impossible.
That clock has chimed midnight 3 times already.
Keeping track of time around here is pointless. That's why I missed your book signing.
Like, does no one have a cell phone? So that's like another theme in the movie, alongside these 4 or 5 other stories going on. The whole thing sort of feels like a bad take on Silent Hill, something like that. It's like this one town that follows its own rules and is like sort of a half fantasy place. But the story's so convoluted that I really can't make heads or tails of what actually happens. In the end, Hal Baltimore discovers that Bobby LaGrange, the sheriff, actually killed the girl with the wooden stake, and that girl is V. So I guess the story is that she was part of the church group. The priest killed all the kids, but she got away. And then Bobby LaGrange thought she was a vampire, one of the kids from across the lake. So he killed her with a wooden stake through her heart. And then he was so guilty about it that he hung himself. So Hal Baltimore has some revelation or something, I don't remember. He comes to the sheriff's office, the assistant deputy, whatever, is dead, and LaGrange has hung himself, and he's got a sign that says guilty. But then it's like the whole thing like never really happened. It was just Hal Baltimore working his way through the process of writing this new story and get an advance.
Bulletproof. You delivered the goods here. I'm telling you, meat on the bone.
I don't know. I can't even figure it out now. If you watched this movie and totally understood the whole plot, I'm sorry that I'm butchering it, but I couldn't follow it. I don't know what happened in that movie. Now, when I watched it, I remember at the end tweeting actually, that I was amazed at how bad it was, which I am, because it's a really bad movie. But it does have, it's not bad beginning to end. It does have its moments. One part with Val Kilmer where he's struggling to write the first line of his story is really funny. It's probably one of the best scenes.
The night was humid. The night was cloudy. Fog. A mist descends on the lake. Mini unwanted Panuki Lake.
The conversation with Edgar Allan Poe would have been better, but it was interesting. The guy looks just like Edgar Allan Poe, so that's cool. The graphical style, like I said, the stylized scenes, they're terrible, but they sort of grow on you in a weird way. Should you watch it? No, probably not. Maybe this review has piqued your interest in it. If it looks like something that might interest you, give it a shot. Is it scary? Not at all. No. And I'm not saying that in like oh, that movie's not scary. No, it's not really trying to be scary. It's more of a thriller. It goes more for unsettling than scary. There's no gore, really. There's one scene with like blood, but it's stupid. There's nothing you wouldn't see in like a teenager's video game. No real jump scares or anything. It's more of a Silent Hill type of horror. Silent Hill is another movie, which is a fucking convoluted mess of a plot. But much higher budget, much better effects than this thing. So I'm very happy to make another video, finally. I'm hoping there will be more. They're fun to do. I would love to hear your feedback on this or any of my other videos. There's 4 others that I've done so far. Or 5, I don't know. Some of those are a lot better than this one. I'd like to take a second to give a shout out to Jeremy Johns, a YouTube video reviewer who reviews movies and games and stuff and has a huge following, and I hope that one day I can reach even 10% of the level he's at. However, we do very different things. He reviews stuff that's in theaters that people are curious about, while I review stuff that I'm sure you've probably never heard of. And that's the whole point. I like bringing weird things to people's attention. So that's it for this video. Give me your feedback on the movie if you've seen it. That's probably the only way that you found this review, because you looked up a Twixt review. Like the video if you enjoyed it. That's always nice. That's a nice thing to do. Subscribe if you want to know when I make my next one. Could be 20 years from now. Could be next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.